And I think we're live. Okay, so, starting a little earlier than usual, but happy 4th for people who are celebrating, and for people who aren't celebrating, I don't blame you. That's all I'm going to say on that. We're not here to get political. But the thing is that I wanted to do something a little bit different today, since I really want to go to sleep, but I mean fireworks are just now starting. There's no sense in trying to toss and turn through that, so now I want to actually talk about a movie I saw today, and you all saw the title, so yeah, it's definitely going to be something where, this is a new format that we usually don't do, because I usually just put a picture up of some fan art that I make for reviews, but I wanted to just have something actually going on in the background in terms of it being a little more visually stimulating, I guess. So yeah, we're gonna do a Despicable Me 4 review while we're playing Splatoon. I'm gonna send the stream to a few people while we're getting stuff ready. And yeah, it's definitely a funny story because I actually really didn't want to see this film. I really did not want to. But I did. And it's definitely something where, I mean, it's just for the content and to support my local theater because I don't want it to go out of business. And that's basically the only reason why I wanted to see this. I should probably talk about what I thought of first about the past films and all of that. Well, yeah, we got some viewers, nice. Welcome in, y'all. You saw the title. We're going to be talking about Despicable Me 4. And spoilers, of course, but I don't think you guys really care about that. Anyone who's going to put themselves through this movie probably is just as crazy as me, but at the same time also, it's definitely also something where I feel like we should not let spoilers scare us away from this, because I'm pretty sure if you read the notification thing, yeah, this movie's not very good. It's very, it's disappointing in so many ways, and basically it's also something where I want to talk about why, because it's so easy these days to look at a film, especially an animated film, and just automatically say, oh, that looks awful. But then you don't really know why you're saying that. Are you saying that because of the comedy? Are you saying that because of the actual animation? Are you saying that because you feel like the plot's gonna be bad? I feel like it's just so easy to just say, this looks like it's gonna suck, and then just leave it at that. And we're actually gonna talk about what actually makes this film bad beyond just the minions, you know? And beyond just the fact that it's another sequel. Sorry if my playing is going to be bad tonight, because I'm very much in the dark right now because the lights in my recording room actually went out. And, like, the power's not out, but I couldn't find the bulbs I needed to replace the lights. So I am literally gaming by candlelight and this cool, like, automatic crystal ball I got at some furniture store, so it's pretty dark in here. The screen is bright, but I mean, you know, we're just gonna make do with what we have. So I have a candle going, I have my futuristic, future-telling crystal ball, and we're just gonna talk about this movie, and hopefully you won't see me fail at Splatoon 3. But beyond that, oof, and I already failed. But let's get into it. I should probably mention about what I think about the past Despicable Me films before I get into this one, though. So, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll probably put a timestamp in the description about where I actually start talking about Despicable Me specifically, if you want to just skip to that. So, basically, oh dear, I couldn't tell if that was the hammer or the splat bomb for a second, but it was the splat bomb. So Despicable Me as a franchise, honestly, I feel like I used to really love it. I liked 1 and 2, but ever since we got past 3 and all the Minions movies, everything from there just was not up to par. There are some people who actually hated the second film and thought that one was actually where things started to turn for the worse. Oh, I thought I could dodge that. I thought I could actually get away from that. Basically, this is a franchise that I feel like it had so much potential to, dodge that, to actually be something a little bit more long-lasting with an actual positive message and legacy. I really feel like, for instance, when it comes to, sorry, let me know if you guys can hear me okay. I'm worried the music is too loud. Oh, they got me in midair. Okay, I'll give that to you. That was pretty badass. But basically, Despicable Me 1, of course, was the peak. The Minions shenanigans didn't go too far in terms of taking up too much screen time, and they were a lot more tolerable in terms of the type of comedy they did with them, because instead of just saying, okay, let's just have them do the most random, most extremely passive-aggressive stuff to each other, they actually seem to have more of a dynamic with themselves and with Gru. In my opinion, I thought the Minions of the first 2 movies were the only times where the Minions were actually really done right, for the type of comedy they're going for, because the Minions, I mean, they're literally just there to serve Gru, and they're also just there to, did they get that guy? They did. Oh my goodness! Oof. I did a panic special attack, but it didn't work. Since the Minions are literally only there to serve Gru, their only comedic purpose should also be that. It shouldn't be them going off on separate adventures without Gru being involved in any way, just for them to come save the day later. Oh! But, and I also feel like making the Minions actually have some sort of emotional attachment to Gru is always the way to go, instead of making them just bitter and idiotic, because in the third film, that was what I heard the biggest complaint was about how the Minions were sidelined, and their shenanigans just seemed a little too mean-spirited, and they basically were more in the ballpark of, oh boy, gotta back up. They were more in the ballpark of just being annoying rather than actually contributing anything to the plot until the very last act. And yeah, I mean, that's totally accurate, and that's exactly kind of what happened here at the... They had a small group of Minions that did follow Gru around, but a majority of them were off doing their own thing, and it was extremely jarring when the small group of Minions was really all we needed. It was all... Oh, we lost the lead. It was all we really needed in terms of, okay, which do I want to go after? Do I go after the sniper, or do I go after the... Okay, it's right. But we ran out of time, no. But beyond that, I also feel like the Minions in Despicable Me 4 took the worst qualities of them in terms of how they interact with the world around them, and with no consequences, basically. And they really bumped that up to 11 in Despicable Me 4, and as an increasing factor throughout the movies, basically. We can only push our imaginations so far. And the suspension of disbelief can only go so far with even something as wild as Despicable Me. What else? I should probably talk about the characters of Gru, the kids, and all the villains. And basically, you might have heard, but there's a big advertisement going around, or people posting about how the prior Despicable Me villains and the villains from the Minions movies as well make an appearance in the fourth film. And this is true, but it's done in the worst possible way. Do not get your hopes up for this to be the type of film where Gru has to go undercover in order to specifically hide from a bunch of villains from his past. That's not what happens. And honestly, Kung Fu Panda 4 really stuck the, I guess, it started a really bad trend. It started a really, really bad trend in terms of saying that we know you love certain characters, but we are going to completely erase them from the narrative for the sake of adding some new characters and then have them appear at the end credits, and suddenly that makes everything okay. It doesn't. It really doesn't. It doesn't at all, because basically it almost seems kind of passive-aggressive from the writers and the creatives in the studio, saying, okay, fine, here's your favorite character, are you happy now? Even though you had to wait the whole entire movie to see them at the very end credits. It just seems really, I don't know, it puts a bad taste in my mouth, and also they use it for advertising as if the Furious 5 were gonna be in the film more than just the end credits, more than just in that little last segment. And I feel like Despicable Me 4 obviously has done the same thing. I'm just giving you a fair warning. Don't get your hopes up for things that are not gonna happen, basically. Well, they technically do happen, but they do it in the most lazy way possible. I used to also, this definitely counts as a spoiler, but I used to like, actually, the whole idea of a dance party, sing-along kind of ending. Oh, how did I miss that? They were right there. Oh my gosh, that was awful. But the thing was that, in my opinion, I used to actually really like that kind of ending to an animated movie, not because I just wanted to hear a pop song or I wanted to see the characters do something silly. It was more because I felt like that was a way for characters to show a different side to themselves and connect characters that usually wouldn't have a lot of screen time together for one final thing at the very end. And I actually really liked that. I didn't think they were as bad as people made them out to be until this movie. This movie decides to do a musical number at the very end with all the villains coming in too, who are for some reason on decent terms enough with Gru to sing with him, and it sucked. It sucked. It was so bad because they didn't put any effort into the singing, really. They didn't put in any effort into dancing, really, and it did nothing for the characters in terms of bringing them together in a meaningful way. The reason why some people don't mind... I ran out of ink. The reason why people don't always mind dance party endings or musical number endings is because of the fact that it means something to the characters when it's done well. At least I threw a bomb. Yeah, I got someone. That was awful. But this movie decides to do it just for the hell of it, and it has no relation to bringing the characters together. They try to loosely put it with the plot, but in the most minuscule way, because it hinges literally on only one joke that was made midway through the film. Oop. At least I traveled with the Rainmaker, and we got wiped out. That balanced it out pretty quickly, didn't it? I think also another thing that was, this will be my last tangent on talking about the previous films, but the kids were a selling point in the very first movie because they were just getting to know Gru. They were just starting to accept him, and we lost the lead. Shoot! It made sense because we got to see bits and pieces of the girls' personalities as they got closer to Gru and started to trust him more. That was their whole character arc. Once we get into everything past the first Despicable Me movie, they just kind of float around in the background and just need to be rescued by Gru, by the ultimate villain of the film by the end. And it really sucks because you could actually tell some meaningful storylines with the girls and Gru as they are changing, growing up. You don't have to go full inside out with it. You don't have to age them up and go through puberty with them or anything that drastic. But the fact that the past movies, except for the first one, basically take the girls and shove them to the sidelines and don't do anything interesting with them that actually has any effect on the plot, at least, is really disappointing. And I really was hoping that they would fix that with Despicable Me 4. Voice crack. But they didn't. This is probably the girls, despite the fact that they actually had more scenes. What is with my voice? Despite the fact that they actually had probably more screen time in Despicable Me 4, or at least it feels like they had more screen time than usual, they still contributed less than usual to the plot, and even with their scenes that they have all to themselves where they're not with the adult characters, it still really, really felt like they were so disconnected from everything and just there for all those kids are cute type of humor. And, like, there's no reason, especially because in Despicable Me 2, at the very least, they kind of teased something deeper with Margot, the oldest of Gru's adoptive daughters. I zigzagged, and I stayed alive long enough for my teammates to come and help me. But we teased that, but we ended it pretty quickly by just making, in Despicable Me 2, the one boy that Margot was interested in turns out to be an asshole, and that's it. It never goes any farther than that. And, we don't even get, like, a good heart-to-heart with, Gru and Margot talking about what she experienced, and it's just, it frustrates me so much. And they feel even more sidelined, the girls that is, they feel even more sidelined in this movie. Okay, I'm not getting knocked out. Thank you. I am not letting us get knocked out. Not 3 times in a row. Well, we didn't get knocked out on the last round, but it still was upsetting. Okay. Explosion! Jump! Oh, wow. I missed. I looked at the line of the wave breaker and mixed it up with the line of the sniper, and I totally jumped into their shot. That was awful. Okay. But Stop it! Okay, I gotta focus real quick on this, and then we'll finally start talking about the actual movie. Okay. So, Despicable Me 4. This is where I'll put the timestamp for actually talking about Despicable Me 4. we start out in a nutshell with just this really oddly placed, like, school reunion that Gru has with his, like, villainy school, I guess. And I didn't even know that Gru had, like, a villain school that he went to particularly. I don't even know if that was established in the last couple of films. But he's there, it's the class reunion, and everyone is making fun of Gru because he's not exactly the most villainy villain anymore, and stuff like that. And, I mean, fine, I guess. That makes sense. It kind of seems like a cheap way to poke fun at Gru, especially when he seemed, at the last couple of movies, content with the idea of being just a father to the girls, and then also being the type of people that just bust bad guys instead, using his skills for something else. And yeah, oh, I got him at least. I got him with the Rainmaker. Okay, but the thing with that was that despite that not making a lot of sense as a way to open up the film, it only serves really to set up the bad guy, which is probably the lamest bad guy in the series, even worse than the Kitar guy. Oh, wait, I thought I did my special. Shoot! Oh, that's gonna be the difference between victory and defeat. Okay, that's awful. But they're getting it to the checkpoint, so that's good. Thank you, teammates. So basically, it introduces the villain, literally a cockroach man, which is, I guess, kudos for creativity. F as a grade, though, for, F as a grade for execution, though. We could have actually made him a bit more menacing and creepy because of the cockroach gimmick, but they didn't. They just made him pathetic. He was, the only reason he really wanted to actually go against Gru and find him was because he humiliated him at the show by busting him. Because he was undercover for the, anti-villain association or whatever. Or league, I don't know. But that's all it does. And, because of that, sorry for noise in the background if you guys are hearing that. The fireworks, like I said, are going off, and we're trying to fix my recording studio lighting situation. So, basically, it's also something where, it was a very odd intro because it felt so, I don't know, it felt as if they were setting up a villain just for, tension's sake, and then we forget about the villain for a good, what feels like 20 minutes. And then, when we finally come back to the villain, we are much more invested in Gru's new undercover life, so it feels like a cop-out. It feels like it feels almost as if the movie doesn't know what it wants to focus on. And because of that, because it's so hard to follow in the aspect of every time you want to see one particular thing, it jumps to the other part of the plot that is less interesting. It just really felt like the villain was very useless and just has a fight scene at the end, and then that's really it. This movie has way too much going on plot-wise, but we'll get to that later. Moving on to the rest of the recap, though, we get to the point where basically Gru is trying to adjust himself and his family to their new undercover lifestyle, which has a host of problems with the youngest not wanting to lie about her identity because lying is wrong and kids have that black and white type of thinking, and goes all the way to Margot having to, the oldest daughter having to adjust to a new school, which we see nothing of. We get dialogue saying that she was being bullied because oh no, a connection error. That's awful. At least it wasn't me. But we get dialogue saying that Margot was going through stuff, but we never actually see it. And that could have been part of the plot, but it goes absolutely nowhere. We get the salon scene with Lucy, and she ruins a girl's hair, and that leads to a chase scene later on, but again has no overbearing consequences on the actual plot line of the villain and what Gru is trying to accomplish in terms of what he wants out of this new personal life. And it's just it's really disorganized, and it really feels like it doesn't know what it's doing. And that's not even counting the parts where we skip to the minions, basically, to just watch them do their thing with superpowers and stuff, because that's the new gimmick. And it feels so disconnected. It feels so much like, you know how those things about studies the scientists did and sociology people did about attention spans, and how I think it was at the start of like 2021, maybe right after the pandemic. The thing was that they did studies specifically saying that our general attention spans are going down because of things like social media, because of things like AI going crazy in terms of trying to make everything low effort. And the thing is that those studies may be true, but it's almost like writers and movie makers are actually forgetting that there are some people who actually do want to sit down and invest themselves in a story. It's almost like they think that because attention spans are going down, that one, it applies to everyone, even people who clearly want to get invested in a story and want to pay attention and put effort into paying attention. And they think that because of that, that gives them an excuse to just jam-pack as many types of stories, different types of comedy into one, so it seems like it appeals to everyone. And, you know, that seems like a perfect marketing activity, or strategy, I mean. Why did I say activity? It seems like the perfect way to make a film, because you think there's something in it for everybody. You want the teenage drama, you got Margot. You want the Family Guy type of lifestyle, you got Gru. You got the baby shenanigans, you got the superheroes, you got the random commentary on different subsections of fandoms and whatever. Like, you think that there's something for everyone, but you forget the fact that you're actually supposed to be making a cohesive story. And it's really sad that people no longer seem to want to make movies to tell stories. They want to make movies just to distract people. And that's really, it's so frustrating, because I'm sure we all know a person like this, but there are some people who truly want to, instead of see a story when they see a movie, they want to just turn off their brain and just stare at something for a while. And they don't care about the story in terms of if it's well written, what message is it trying to get across. And I mean, you've probably heard it from 1,000 other creators now, but media literacy really is a very rare talent nowadays, and people don't want to put work into actually learning how to be media literate. And it sucks. It really sucks. And this Despicable Me 4 movie is a perfect example of that, because it's so obvious that the writers were not trying to make a cohesive storyline. They just wanted to throw in as much as possible to cater to different types of audiences and loosely connect them through just the characters. And yeah, that's not, that is not the way you want to make a film. I wanted to mention something else about the plot of the movie, and that's the fact that the whole story kind of derails for this midsection plot with one of the new characters that was, I think, what was her name? It's the redhead character that goes to school with Margot. And the thing is that she basically completely takes over the narrative for the midsection of the movie to go on this heist with Gru, because she blackmails him saying that I'm gonna reveal your secret identity to everyone if you don't help me with this. And just when I thought the movie was going to pivot to that and make it so that this was now a movie about generations coming together, because their whole dynamic was that Gru was a classic villain and she's a new villain, and they disagree on how to do things. She's constantly calling him a boomer, making fun of him and his quote-unquote old ways. And I thought there was going to be a lesson in there about generational bias and stuff like that. It didn't have to go deep into it, but I thought they were going to sprinkle that in, but then they don't do anything with that for the rest of the movie. I thought maybe they would actually somehow include her in the plot in terms of being better friends with Gru's daughters, but that never really happened either. They come over to have like a little play date, and that lasts less than 2 minutes. They don't even get more than 2 minutes of screen time together. And like, it just seems like the movie really wants to commit to certain things but doesn't follow through on them, which leads to a lot of disappointments, because they jam-pack the first act of the movie with so many plot lines, so many threads you can follow, but then at the very end they don't make them come together in any meaningful way, and even the plot threads themselves aren't explored enough to stand on their own. That's why the movie feels so disconnected. That's why it feels like the characters are disconnected, and honestly, it makes me wonder what the writers were thinking about what even the goal of making this film was. I mean, we all know that it was because they wanted to make more money, and they wanted to use familiar characters to do that to avoid having to create something new. That's just how Hollywood is these days. And big studios, they don't want new stories. I mean, we literally heard the articles talking about how Disney executives are literally saying, yeah, we're going to steer away from doing personal narrative stories and focus on doing stories that will appeal to as many people as possible. They said that in the interview, and literally they are following through on that by only doing sequels, only doing prequels, only doing stuff with characters we already know and love, so they don't have to take a chance on something new and personal from a different writer. And as awful as that is, they can't even do it right, because they still don't want to put the effort in the movie it takes to make a good film. They just want to slap the familiar characters on screen and call it good. So it's almost like they're trying to make the process of making a film, especially an animated film, as easy and low effort as possible, and also making watching it as easy and low effort to watch. And it definitely feels almost as if, because like this movie jumps from topic to topic, character to character, plot line to plot line so willy-nilly and never connects them, it really shows that the writers, they probably weren't even thinking about making a narrative that involved all these characters. They probably came up with little skits for each characters that could be probably their each own short films, and then tried to piece them all together. And that's never a good idea for a movie. Not even anthologies do that in ways that don't connect all the stories in a bigger way at the very end. And you can probably see you can probably see why this film was so disappointing in the first place, because it has the nerve to tease us with characters that could be developed further, plot lines that could actually be interesting, messages they could talk about. They tease us with it and don't follow through on it, so it feels like you've almost been swindled. It feels like you paid for a certain type of movie and you only got something that teased it. It was almost like watching a giant trailer. So it's definitely something where you're gonna hear people talk about how this movie is bad just because of the Minions. But I think it's bad for so many other ways other than the Minions and their stupid comedy bits. It's so much more than that makes this movie so disappointing. But I want to hear from you guys in the chat on what you thought about the movie. And honestly, I actually want to hear something about what would you do differently about the film. Because the thing is that, don't get me wrong, I really do always hate it when people say stuff like, oh, I could do better than that, and they don't have a writing degree or they don't have any experience with storytelling whatsoever. I don't like that kind of mentality, but it's obviously that the writers are refusing to do their job in general, so it's not a matter of something being like a person just complaining, saying I could do better than that just because they personally don't like where a narrative went, but the overall product was still good. This is not that case. This is the fact that the entire movie was bad, and a lot of amateurs probably could do better. It was definitely, this is not one of those case scenarios where like a fandom is just complaining about a storyline not going exactly where they pictured it. And I want to hear from you guys. What do you think would have made this film better? What do you think would have made it work? I'll give you guys an example to go off of. I'm going to be working on my next YouTube video is going to be about Hell of a Boss, and it's actually not going to be about the most recent episodes. It's going to be about how episode, I believe it was 3 of season 2, yeah. Episode 3 of season 2 has the campers episode, the one that was very divisive, but it was basically, some people loved it and some people absolutely hated it. And it was definitely something where I feel like that episode could have worked in a way that would have pleased everyone, well, almost everyone, without majorly having to change the way the plot functions. I think there were ways to make the characters still follow the general plot line of going to camp for one of their missions. We could still keep that plot line and the B plot with Blitz, and then the episode still could have worked, but because they executed it in a very bad way, that's the real reason why the episode is so hated. And I'll get more into that when I actually make the video, but that's a concept that I feel like could have been done right, and without huge detrimental changes to the concept and plot of that episode. And I'll get into that later, but that's an example of what I mean by, like, what would you do to make the film better? What would you change? What would you alter? What would you add? Or what would you take out? That kind of thing. Thank you so much to the 2 viewers I've got right now for listening to my ramblings. And I also think if you guys want more of this kind of content with me giving my thoughts on something while I'm playing, rather than just the regular type of reviews where I post a fan art bit and then just give the audio of me talking, if you guys like this format better, definitely let me know, and I'll start doing more reviews like this. I feel like also it's something where, for the rest of the stream, how long have we been going for? It's barely been 40 minutes, so, for the rest of the stream, since I feel like I got most of what I wanted to talk about out, I'll probably cut the recording here, but we'll keep on streaming the game and just hang out for the rest of the night. Beyond that, I'll do my little outro for my YouTube and basically say that, of course, like, comment, and subscribe, hit the like button, and if you want more of this content, you can subscribe to Rob Candy on YouTube, and I hope to see you guys soon if you want to come back. Beyond that, I'm gonna stop the recording now, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!